She thought her cheating ex was cruel, until she learned he had stolen from the mafia. Derek didn't just abandon Emma and their 3-day-old daughter. He had secretly embezzled millions from accounts connected to dangerous crime families. Now collectors were coming, and they didn't care if Emma or her baby became collateral damage. Only one man was powerful enough to stop them, mafia boss Dante Salvatore. But his offer came with one terrifying condition. Emma and her daughter had to move into his mansion and become part of his world. Overhead fluorescents buzzed like dying wasps. They soaked the maternity ward in a sickly yellow light. I pressed my palm flat against the freezing glass, staring at that tiny bundle wrapped in pink cotton. My daughter, still nameless after 3 days, mostly because I just couldn't bring myself to choose alone. Antiseptic burned the back of my throat. It sat heavy beneath the faint smell of milk and sweat clinging to my hospital gown. My body throbbed in places I didn't even know existed, a deep, hollow ache proving I had built a life and nearly destroyed my own to pull it off. Miss Carter. The nurse's voice sliced straight through the fog. Your visitor is still waiting out front, she told me. He wasn't a visitor. She meant Derek, my ex, the same guy who stared through this exact glass yesterday and demanded a paternity test before signing a single paper. 3 whole years together, 9 months carrying his kid while he slid right into bed with some Yale grad and her massive trust fund. Now the man wanted proof. I leaned my forehead against the freezing glass, watching my breath fog up the pain. Right through my own reflection, I looked at her, impossibly small, dark wisps of hair. Tiny fingers curled tightly into fists like she was already bracing to fight the world. She deserved so much better than a mother dropping out to wait tables, and a father treating her birth certificate like a hostile corporate merger. Just tell him I am asleep, I whispered. The nurse gave my shoulder a squeeze of practiced sympathy. The exact kind they drill into you right beside wound care. Her rubber shoes squeaked away down the linoleum, and then a heavy shadow shifted in the hallway glass. A man, tall, wearing a dark suit that easily cost triple my rent. He moved with a heavy predatory rhythm. Nothing at all like the frantic doctors or those jittery new fathers. People just parted for him. Pure instinct. Even the nurse who just left me flattened herself against the corridor wall, completely refusing to look up. My chest pulled tight. He stopped 3 doors down, murmuring low to someone out of sight. Fine Italian leather, gleaming under cheap hospital lights. Dark hair, violently precise. When he shifted, the harsh glare caught his jaw. A brutal, striking profile looking like it belonged stamped on some ancient Roman coin, or a magazine I could never afford. Then his muscles stepped into frame, because of course the guy had security. A sheer mountain in a black suit and an earpiece, carrying a hospital-up bassinet draped in heavy cashmere. My stomach cramped just watching them move. The ward nurses were all staring. But it wasn't respect, it was pure, unblinking fear. He owned the entire hallway without breathing a single word, and that bulge under his guard's jacket was definitely not a phone. I really should have looked away right then, gone back to face Derek, his DNA threats, and that shiny new girlfriend, already plastering pregnancy announcements across social media with barely a bump to show for it. But I couldn't look away. He stepped up to the nursery glass, taking the exact spot I just left. His reflection was all harsh angles and heavy shadows, violently beautiful. But when he actually looked at those babies, the mask cracked, just a raw flash of loss. For one split second, the boss actually looked human. Then his eyes flicked sideways, pinned mine right in the glass. I should have bolted, but I was so completely drained, and those dark, burning eyes nailed me straight to the linoleum. The corner of his mouth twitched up barely an inch, a silent acknowledgement, and then Derek's voice ripped through the quiet. Emma, we need to talk, my lawyer says. I spun around, the thin gown twisting against my freezing legs. Derek stood right there. His new girlfriend hovered behind him like some shiny designer purse, frosted highlights. Yoga pants worth my entire car payment, one hand resting on her flat stomach, playing the proud mother, at barely 12 weeks. Your lawyer, my voice actually cracked. She is 3 days old, Derek, and you called a lawyer. He let out a loud sigh, looking totally annoyed by the inconvenience. Emma, be reasonable. I just need to verify. Verify. The word tasted like straight battery acid. I was faithful for 3 years. You are the one who Derek hissed at me to keep it down, checking the hallway. Brittany and I just want things handled properly before. Before what? I snapped back. Before you play happy family and deny your own blood. Down the hall, the man in the suit drifted closer. I never even saw him walk. Suddenly he was 10 feet away, dissecting our argument. His guard hovered close, knuckles resting right over that suspicious jacket bulge. Look, Derek whispered, playing the perfectly reasonable guy. I will sign the certificate after the test comes back. It is just a formality. A formality. The laugh just scraped out of my throat. She needs a name, Derek. She needs the certificate for insurance, for her doctor. Then register her under your name, Brittany chirped. Her voice dripped with fake pity. Problem solved. Right there, something deep in my chest finally snapped. Maybe it was the sleep deprivation. Or 3 days staring through cold glass, knowing I could not give my baby the world she deserved. Get out, I whispered Emma. Be rational, get out, I yelled it this time. The nurses froze, and the stranger in the custom suit slowly tilted his head. Sharp interest flared in those dangerous dark eyes. Derek threw his hands up, playing the exhausted victim. Fine. Call me when you are ready to be reasonable. Let's go, Brittany. They walked off, her heels hammering the tiles. I stood there shaking, tears burned my eyes. But I absolutely refused to let them fall. Not here. Not with the whole maternity ward watching me crumble. Bastardo, a low voice rumbled right beside me. The Italian curse was heavy, velvet wrapped over solid steel. I flinched. He was dangerously close now. Devastating up close. Not conventionally handsome, but pulling you in like a brutal riptide. Barely 30. Black eyes carrying way too much weight. And a hard mouth that clearly forgot how to smile. A thin scar cut straight through his left eyebrow. Excuse me, I whispered, sounding painfully small. Your ex, the man said, nodding toward the empty hallway. He is a bastard, the weak kind, hiding behind lawyers and shiny new women, instead of facing the wreckage he caused. His English was flawless, softened by an accent that made every single syllable sound lethal. He smelled like dark cologne, rich car leather, and something sharp, like copper or gunpowder. Do I know you? I asked him. No, he studied me, his eyes cutting right down to the bone. But I know men exactly like him. Weak, the kind who create a life. Then run the second, the blood gets real. That bitter edge in his voice told me he wasn't just talking about Derek. I need to get back to my room. I crossed my arms, painfully aware of the paper-thin hospital gown. Your daughter, he murmured, looking at the glass. She is beautiful. Got your eyes. I stopped dead in my tracks. You can't possibly see that from here. I can. He didn't even blink. And she deserves more than a coward demanding proof. And a mother breaking her spine to carry the weight, alone. The tears jammed hot in my throat. You know absolutely nothing about me. I know you have worn that same plastic bracelet for 3 days, he replied smoothly. Barely left this glass except to feed her. I know you are terrified of tomorrow, because the road ahead just vanished. He stepped right into my space, close enough that the heat rolled off him, in that freezing hallway. And I know you refused to cry until your ex turned his back. You are stronger than you think. Emma Carter. Hearing my name in his mouth sent a cold shock straight down my spine. How do you? The nurse said it. He cut in. I pay attention. His lips curved barely an inch. It is how I stay alive, a bright red flag. I should have locked myself in my room and called security right then, but I was just so exhausted by the fear, tired of pretending I had a plan. I am Dante, he said, Dante Salvatore. He didn't offer his hand. Bosses like him didn't shake hands. They took. They owned. Introducing himself felt like he was carving his name straight into my ribs. I should really go. I stepped backward. Wait, it wasn't a request at all. It was an absolute order lined with velvet. Your daughter needs a birth certificate. Your ex refuses to sign it. What if I solved that? I froze. What do you mean? He shot a look at his guard, just a silent, dead-eyed signal. I have resources. I can make sure she gets everything she needs. Completely without him. I don't understand why, because I can. Simple, absolute, terrifying. Men like him shouldn't hold any power over women like me. He paused, something dark flaring deep in those eyes. Because I want to, he said. My gut screamed at me to run. Everything about the man, the custom suit, the armed guard, the casual talk of solving problems bled sheer danger. I stared back at the nursery. My daughter slept, completely unaware. Her father had just vanished, and her mother was powerless to protect her from this underworld. I asked him what he wanted in return, hating the slight tremor in my own voice. He smiled, a slow, predatory look. We would discuss terms later. First, he pulled a phone from his jacket, one of several tucked inside. He spoke rapid Italian. I couldn't even follow. Hanging up. That terrifying certainty returned. His mafia lawyer would arrive within the hour to handle the birth certificate. Make it legal and binding. No signature from my ex required at all. I told him it was impossible. He cut me off softly. The law is pretty flexible when you know the right people. Trust me, Emma. By tomorrow, your daughter's future will be fully secured. I stammered out that I couldn't possibly pay him. He stepped closer, gold flecks catching in his dark eyes. He wasn't asking for money. The scent hit me first, raw danger layered over expensive cologne. He only wanted time, dinner once I healed. A simple conversation, but I knew better. I felt it deep in my bones. My pulse reacting to his closeness with sheer terror, and something I completely refused to name. Just dinner, I asked quietly. Just dinner, he agreed. But the dark look in his eyes meant he was already picturing quite a bit more. Before I could even process the reality of taking help from an underworld boss, his lawyer stepped right up, an older man in a sharp tailored suit, holding a leather briefcase that easily cost more than my entire car. "This is Emma Carter," Dante commanded, never breaking eye contact with me. "Her daughter needs papers. Handle it." The older man gave a tight nod, of course. "Mr. Salvatore," he turned my way, almost entirely unfazed by the tension in the room. "Sign right here," he instructed, promising the paperwork would be processed by dawn. Then he asked for the baby's name. I stood there absolutely frozen, torn right down the middle between pure terror and blinding hope, caught between safe poverty and this incredibly dangerous luxury. "Sophia," I finally whispered. "Sophia Grace Carter. Beautiful," Dante murmured. That low, rough edge in his voice made it pretty clear. He wasn't just talking about the baby. The very next morning, I woke up to legal documents sitting right on my hospital tray. Crisp paper, official ink, stamped with heavy government seals. I didn't recognize, though they absolutely screamed legitimacy. It was Sophia Grace Carter's actual birth certificate. My signature sat directly next to a father's line that simply read "declined to establish paternity." No messy DNA tests, no begging Derek for permission. With one single stroke, my little girl had a real identity. I really should have felt some relief. Instead, my hands kept shaking holding that paper. I read it over and over in the weak morning light. It was entirely real. I even verified it with the clerk twice. But that invisible debt hung right over my neck, like a guillotine. Then a nurse bustled in, flashing a bright, forced smile. "Ready for discharge, sweetie." The doctor gave the final approval. We were finally free to go home. Except home was just a cramped one-bedroom apartment, with a permanently dripping faucet and neighbors screaming at 3 a.m. I had a cheap second-hand car seat waiting in the closet, and exactly $400 to my name. The bank account was almost completely hollow, and I had no job waiting for me. That diner replaced me the exact second my water broke. I told the nurse we were good to go, but I really wasn't. A couple hours later, I found myself standing in the lobby, Sophia swaddled tight in some cheap Target outfit. The automatic doors sliced open and shut, blasting us with a heavy September heat that pushed the hospital air conditioning to its absolute limits. Other families walked out holding balloons. Smiling fathers hauled infant carriers. I just had a cheap diaper bag and a rapidly rising panic. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. "A car is waiting outside. Driver will take you home. Signed D." My head snapped up. Right there through the glass, a black Mercedes sedan idled, its windows completely pitch black. A driver in a sharp suit stood patiently by the back door, radiating the quiet confidence of a very well-paid man. No, absolutely not. I was never going to be some mafia boss's charity case. Then little Sophia whimpered against my chest, her tiny face scrunched up tight, the universal warning sign that a massive meltdown was only seconds away. My chest ached so badly. The surgical incision burned like fire with every single step I took. Meanwhile, that stupid Uber app was still spinning endlessly on my screen. Outside, the Mercedes driver caught my eye through the glass, gave a single discreet nod. I really should have turned my back, called a cab, clung desperately to whatever pathetic shred of independence I actually had left. Instead, I pushed right through those sliding glass doors. The brutal September heat slapped my face instantly. "Miss Carter," the driver murmured, pulling open the heavy rear door. The interior was lined with custom leather, worth more than my entire apartment. "Mr. Salvatore sends his regards," he said smoothly. He arranged a proper car seat for the ride. He was absolutely right. A top-tier infant seat was bolted flawlessly into the back row. Not my second-hand closet junk. This thing looked practically like a NASA pod. I opened my mouth to refuse. But the driver didn't even blink. He anticipated you'd say that. "Mr. Salvatore says it isn't a gift. It is a mandatory investment to ensure his goddaughter gets home completely safe." Goddaughter. I nearly choked on the word. "We aren't, he isn't," I stammered. The driver just calmly gestured toward the open cabin. "It is terribly hot, Miss Carter. The baby really needs some shade." He was entirely right. Sophia's little face was turning angry and flushed. I glanced down at my useless Uber app, then back at the armored Mercedes, bleeding icy, conditioned air onto the pavement. I looked down at my baby. She deserved way better than my fragile, stubborn pride, so I finally climbed inside. The heavy door shut with the thick, vault-like thud of German engineering. The cabin was freezing, totally silent, and smelled faintly of fresh leather and of Dante's signature cologne. Right beside a chilled bottle of water sat a small gift bag. "What exactly is this?" I asked, as the heavy sedan glided smoothly away from the hospital curb. "Mr. Salvatore thought you might need some essentials," the driver replied, catching my eye right in the rearview mirror. "Just diapers and formula. Nothing extravagant." I slowly pulled the bag open. In mafia terms, nothing extravagant meant pure organic diapers and imported European formula that cost $50 a can. There was a sealed envelope in there, too. My fingers actually trembled tearing it open. Elegant handwriting covered the heavy card inside. "For Sophia's first month. No strings, just some breathing room." Initialed. D. Tucked right behind it sat a check for $5,000. All the air instantly left my lungs. $5,000 rent, groceries. Pure survival. The exact distance between me and total financial ruin. "I can't keep this," I whispered to the quiet cabin. The driver completely ignored me, weaving through city traffic with lethal precision. Soon we were drifting right into my neighborhood, the bleak, forgotten side of town where untouchable men like Dante Salvatore never stepped foot, where rusted chain link protected absolutely nothing at all, and police sirens sang you to sleep every single night. Then my phone vibrated, a new text message. "You will accept it. Sophia deserves far better than watching her mother drown. Call it a loan if your pride demands it. Pay me back later, or don't. Just cash it." I typed back with frantic, shaking fingers. "How did you even get my number?" The reply came almost instantly. "I know absolutely everything about you, Emma. Your address, your work history, your ex's new girlfriend and her shiny trust fund. I even know you ate nothing but stale cafeteria food for 3 days because you were too terrified to leave the maternity ward. I know you're scared, Emma. You're entirely alone, and I know you would much rather drown than beg a single living soul for help." My lungs just seized up. That message really should have terrified me. I should have been clawing at the doors, screaming for the driver to pull over. Instead, a dangerous, strange heat bloomed directly in my chest. This crime boss actually saw me. Not the brave little mask I wore for the hospital staff. Not the fake, polite smile I always gave Derek. He stripped away all the heavy armor and saw the terrified girl trembling underneath. "This is completely insane." I texted back. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he replied. "Dinner with me. Tomorrow at 7. I just sat there, staring blankly at the tinted window. "I have a newborn," I typed out. He answered instantly. "My estate is absolutely secure. My housekeeper raised 6 kids. Sophia will be completely safe while we talk." I typed back one single heavy question. "Why are you doing this?" The screen stayed blank for a very long time. When his answer finally arrived, it felt like truth wrapped in razor wire. 10 years ago, my sister needed help and died entirely alone. I became the kind of pan-in who makes sure that never happens to anyone else. The Mercedes glided to a smooth stop at my building. The driver stepped out, pulling a high-end stroller right from the trunk. Another crazy luxury I definitely couldn't afford yesterday. "What time tomorrow, Miss Carter?" he asked, effortlessly transferring the sleeping baby. I should have said no, thanked him, walked upstairs, and blocked Dante Salvatore's number forever. 7, I heard myself say out loud. "I will be ready at 7. The driver offered a tight, thin smile. "Excellent. Mr. Salvatore will be very pleased." He pulled away, leaving me standing alone on the cracked concrete with a sleeping baby and $5,000 in blood. Money I just couldn't afford to refuse. The next 30 hours bled right into a sleepless blur of midnight feedings, diaper changes, and the absolutely crushing panic of keeping a tiny human alive. My apartment had never felt smaller. Every loud wail bounced harshly off the paper-thin walls. Every floorboard creak made my heart hammer in my chest. In the dead silences, I panicked and checked to make sure Sophia was actually still breathing. I went and cashed Salvatore's check. Hated myself for it, but I did it anyway. Paid the late rent, bought actual, fresh groceries, stocked up on the endless diapers and wipes that bleed a bank account completely dry. By 6:30 the next evening, I stood staring blindly into my tiny closet. I owned absolutely nothing appropriate for a man who kept city police chiefs on his private payroll. I pulled out a simple black dress from a cousin's funeral 2 years back. It hung awkwardly loose on my frame. Pregnancy and sheer panic had already carved 15 pounds off me weight. I really couldn't afford to lose. But it was clean, pretty modest, and the absolute best option I had. I fed Sophia, zipped her into the nicest little onesie from the hospital bag, and swallowed the loud voice screaming that I was making a fatal mistake. The Mercedes pulled up at exactly 7 o'clock. A different driver this time, much younger with cold, calculating eyes that carefully scanned the entire street before he even opened my door. Miss Carter, I am Marco. I will be your escort tonight. We drove in silence for 40 minutes, leaving the gritty city behind for the kind of generational money where houses turn into massive walled estates. We hit a private road with a heavy security checkpoint that made airport screening look like a complete joke. Marco murmured something in Italian over the two-way radio. Massive iron gates groaned open. The sprawling place beyond wasn't just a house. It was a literal fortress. Sleek modern lines cloaking old-world paranoia. Cameras tracked our approach. Guards stood like stone statues in the shadows. The spotlights could probably signal deep space. Holy shit, I whispered. Marco barely twitched. Mr. Salvatore values his privacy. We glided straight to the main entrance. Dante stood, waiting on the steps, framed by the warm interior light. He traded the suit for dark slacks and a black button-down, sleeves rolled right to the elbows. Thick forearms corded with muscle. Wrapped in ink I couldn't quite read. Casual wealth masking raw violence. He opened my door himself before Marco even killed the engine. Emma, he said. My name sounded heavy in his mouth. Dangerous, like a warning. Welcome. I tried climbing out with some dignity, while wrestling Sophia's car seat. Total fail. His massive hand clamped onto my elbow to steady me, and the heat shot straight into my bones. Easy, he murmured. Let me. He took the heavy carrier like he had done it 1,000,000 times, holding her with this terrifying, almost tender grace. She grew already. Is that even possible? I reminded him it had only been 2 days. 2 days and 17 hours. He corrected. He shot me this dark, intensely possessive look that burned right through me. He led us into a ridiculous magazine cover foyer. Glossy marble, priceless canvases. A chandelier throwing sharp glass shadows everywhere. And yet, the room wasn't cold at all. Fresh lilies sat on dark wood. The heavy scent of garlic and wine hung in the air. He called out for Maria. A woman in her 60s hurried over, her tired eyes immediately lighting up at the baby. Oh my God, look at this sweet angel. He introduced us Emma. Maria basically raised me after my mother died. If anyone can handle a newborn, it is her. Maria was already lifting the carrier with expert hands. She shooed me away. Go have dinner. I will take perfect care of her. She needs a change, maybe a bottle. I mentioned I was nursing but brought pumped milk. Perfect, she beamed. We have absolutely everything we need here. You just relax, talk to Dante. Eat. You look like you haven't had a real meal in weeks. Before I could even grab a pacifier, she swept Sophia down the hall, cooing rapid Italian suddenly. I was entirely alone with the boss of this fortress. She is right, he murmured. You look completely starved. Come. His heavy hand pressed flat against my lower back, steering me forward, protective, claiming, burning a hole right through my cheap dress. We stepped out onto a massive stone terrace. The dark grounds bled straight into the horizon. A table for two, candles fighting the fading sunset, iced wine, and food that smelled like pure salvation. Sit, an order, not a request. I sat. He poured his wine, then handed me water. You are nursing. He noted. I stared at him. You remember everything, don't you? Only the things that matter. He sank into his chair with a slow, predatory grace. Eat, Emma. Then we discuss why you are actually here. My stomach dropped. The birth certificate. The money. It was never charity. Was it? He flashed a smile sharp enough to draw blood. No, he agreed. It was an investment. And now we discuss my returns. The food was unreal. Handmade pasta. A slow-cooked ragu that tasted like a family secret. Warm bread and charred vegetables. I tried chewing slowly to fake some dignity, but I was absolutely ravenous. 2 weeks of hospital trays will do that. Dante just watched me, barely touched his own plate. His focus was entirely suffocating. Every time I glanced up, those dark eyes were tracking me, cataloging, analyzing, claiming the space. You are not eating, I pointed out, grabbing my water just to break his intense stare. I prefer watching you eat, he replied. There is something pretty honest about how you take pleasure. No performance, just pure hunger. Heat crawled up my neck. The way his mouth shaped the word pleasure felt completely obscene. You wanted to talk about returns on your investment, I countered, desperately trying to steer us back to business. What does that mean? He leaned back, casually swirling his dark wine. Behind him, the sun stained the sky a bruised, violent purple. He looked like a fallen angel straight out of a Renaissance painting, gorgeous and deeply terrible. Your ex, he started quietly. Derek Morrison. Junior partner at his father's investment firm. Pulls a decent check, sure, but nothing wild. Yet Derek lives in a downtown penthouse, drives a Porsche, and his new girlfriend flashes diamonds worth triple his yearly salary. I blinked. How on earth do you know that? Because it is my literal job to know things, he said smoothly. I know Derek has been bleeding his father's clients dry for 18 months, skimming small amounts, cooking the books. He is up to almost $3 million. My fork slipped, clattering loudly against the fine china. That is completely impossible, I stammered. Derek isn't nearly smart enough for corporate fraud. Exactly, Dante's smile turned razor-thin, which tells me someone else is yanking his leash. A bigger player who needed a weak, greedy suit with vault access. Someone using Derek like a meat shield, ready to toss him to the feds the second the heat turns up. What does his garbage have to do with me? Or Sophia? He set his wine down. Nice and slow 3 months ago. Derek skimmed the wrong ledger. An account held by a close associate of mine. A very specific kind of man who absolutely never forgives a thief. My throat slammed shut. Are you saying Derek stole from the mafia? I am saying he stole from a businessman with deep ties to several syndicates, including mine. And this businessman wants his cash back, with interest, plus blood. The word choked me blood. Dante's face went completely dead, figuratively speaking, mostly. Look, Derek painted a massive target on his own back. And when my associates erase a target, they do not lose sleep over the collateral damage. Girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, the kids, pure ice injected straight into my veins. Sophia, you are telling me my baby is a target because Derek is an absolute idiot. I am saying she could be, unless a heavier hitter steps in. Someone who makes it crystal clear you two are strictly off limits. That touching you means declaring all-out war on the Salvatore family. I shoved my chair back, getting to my feet on shaking legs. This is completely insane. You are using my newborn baby as leverage to do what? Squeeze Derek. Mark your territory. Dante stood up, stalking around the table with terrifying grace. I am offering you an iron shield. Real protection from bullets you didn't fire, but will catch anyway. I backed up a step. And what exactly do you get out of this deal? But I had nowhere left to run. Cold stone pressed hard against my spine. Men like you never give away favors. You always collect. You are absolutely right. He stopped inches from my face. I could feel the heat baking off his chest. Smelled the expensive cedar cologne hiding the darker danger right beneath it. I always collect, and what I want, Emma, is you. I stopped breathing. Excuse me. He lowered his voice. Not like that. Not tonight. His large hand rose. Of rough knuckles hovering just a millimeter from my jawline. I want you living in this house. You and Sophia, wearing my protection. Entirely sheltered by my name. I need to wake up knowing you are safe. I need to come home and find you right here, untouchable. You want me to be your what? Your mafia mistress, your little kept woman. I want you to be mine. Simple. Absolute. Completely terrifying. Put whatever label on it you need to. A companion. A partner, and later, when you are ready, something much deeper. But for now, I just want you breathing. I want Sophia growing up entirely untouchable. In exchange for what? My voice shook. My freedom. Becoming some mob boss's property. His jaw tightened. I am not a mob boss. I am a businessman with complicated associations. And I am not asking for your freedom. I am offering you more of it than you have ever had. No more sweating over rent. No more choosing between groceries and diapers. No more killing yourself at a job that barely pays, while Sophia stays at some cheap daycare. I am offering you security. Emma, real security. At what cost? Loyalty. His heavy hand dropped to my waist. The heat burning straight through my clothes. Honesty. Your presence in my home. In my life. And eventually, when you are ready, whatever else you are willing to give. I should have pushed him away. I should have demanded he call the car to take me home right then. But the words dug in deep. The bone-tired exhaustion of trying to survive alone. The cold terror of knowing I could not shield Sophia from the world. And the desperate, stupid hope that maybe someone strong enough actually could. I don't even know you. I barely whispered it. You know enough. You know I keep my promises. You know I have the resources to protect you both. You know that when I say you will be safe, I mean it with every single favor and weapon at my disposal. His other hand lifted, cupping my cheek with a surprising, completely terrifying gentleness. And you know I have thought about you every single minute since that hallway. Since I saw you looking at your daughter like she was worth burning the entire world down for. Why? The words scraped out of my throat. Why me? You could have anyone. Women who actually belong in your world. Sophisticated ones. I do not want women from my world. His thumb traced my lower lip. My lungs just stopped working. They are like expensive sculptures. Flawless, but completely ice cold. You are real, Emma. You actually feel things. You fight, and when you look at your baby, I see the kind of love I thought died with my sister. That is worth more than every polished socialite in this city combined. The burn started right behind my eyes. Total insanity. Normal people do not just move in with a stranger. But people in my world do things differently. We move faster, because we know exactly how fast everything gets ripped away. He pressed his forehead against mine. The heavy weight of him completely leveled me. I am not asking you to love me. Not yet, anyway. I am just asking you to let me protect you, while we figure out whatever this actually is. Because something is happening here. You feel it too, I see it the second I step close. The way your chest rises. The way you stay planted right here. Even when your survival instinct screams to run. God help me, he was dead right. My traitorous body leaned toward his heat, craving the absolute security he offered. Or maybe it was just raw survival, recognizing a predator, massive enough to scare off the rest. I chose my words carefully. If I say yes, what exactly does that mean? What are your rules? His voice went dead flat. You and Sophia live under my roof. You get your own suite, bedroom, bathroom, sitting area, complete privacy whenever you need it. Maria will help with the baby so you can actually sleep, rest. You get access to all of it, the cars, the drivers, anything you ask for. In return, you eat dinner with me when I am around. You let me get to know you. You give this a real chance. I challenged him, and if I want out, something dark flared in his eyes. Then you leave, he told me. I will never hold you prisoner, but you walk away from my protection, from giving Sophia everything you never had. I snapped back that it was pure manipulation. No, it is reality. His hands dropped. The sudden chill made me want to grab him back. Derek stole from incredibly dangerous men. That debt follows you whether you stay or run. The only question is if you face the fallout alone, or with the full weight of the Salvatore family, standing as your shield. I turned away, gripping the cold stone rail. The estate grounds stretched out below like a kingdom. I asked how I know he is telling the truth about Derek. He did not blink. You do not. But ask yourself this, why would I lie? Why would I go to war for a woman I just met, unless the threat was very real? I swallowed hard. Because men like you collect things. Beautiful things, broken things you can easily control. You are not broken. His low voice vibrated right behind my ear. The heat of his chest brushed against my spine. You are bent. There is a massive difference. Broken things shatter under pressure. Bent things just adapt. They come back stronger. You are not some project to fix. Emma, you are something to protect while you find your footing. A soft noise made us both turn around. Maria stood in the doorway, cradling a fast-asleep Sophia right against her chest. She took the bottle beautifully. Maria whispered, changed. Happy, sleeping like an absolute angel. I laid her in the bassinet down in the blue suite. I figured Miss Emma might want to see the rooms now. Dante looked at me. The question hung heavy in the room. This was the ledge. Walk back to my cramped apartment and Derek's violent mistakes. Or step into this terrifying mafia empire with a man offering titanium armor who might eventually demand my soul. Iced at Sophia, perfectly safe in Maria's arms. I looked at the massive, secure walls surrounding us. Then I looked at Dante, dangerous, compelling, offering the one thing I could never buy. A shield strong enough to block the world's cruelty from my little girl. Show me the rooms, I heard myself say. Dante kept his expression totally blank, but something fierce ignited in those dark eyes. Pure triumph, possession. This way, he murmured. The blue suite sat on the second floor, overlooking the gardens. It was not just a bedroom, it was an entire private wing. A massive bed drowned in soft creams. A sitting area with a carved marble fireplace. The bathroom was easily twice the size of my old apartment, featuring a deep soaking tub and a shower built right into the stone. And right next door, a nursery pulled straight out of a dream. Every single detail was flawless. Hand-painted murals on the walls. A rocking chair set perfectly to catch the morning sun. The crew finished it this afternoon, Dante said from the doorway. I had decorators brought in yesterday. If you hate any of it, we will just rip it all out. My throat clamped completely shut. I could not process a man who casually orders an entire nursery, built from scratch in under 48 hours. Maria lowered Sophia into the bassinet, a sleek designer piece, probably worth more than my sedan. The baby slept right through it, heavy and full. I will leave you two to talk, Maria murmured softly. Maria squeezed my shoulder on her way out. If you need absolutely anything, you just press this button right here. She pointed at a sleek wall panel. I am right down the hall. The heavy door clicked shut. Just me, Dante, and my daughter in this beautiful, terrifying fortress. There are clothes in the closet. Dante told me quietly your exact size. Just casual stuff, nothing wild. Plenty of baby supplies, too. Everything you might need for the next few months. If I missed something, just say the word. I opened the heavy closet doors. He was not exaggerating. Rows of comfortable fabrics, nursing tops, soft pants. Nothing flashy, nothing that made me feel like a purchased woman. Just incredibly thoughtful. Exactly what a tired mother actually needs. When did you even do all this? The words barely scraped past my throat. I make decisions fast, he replied. Once I know what I want, I do not hesitate. He took a step closer, but kept his distance. Sleep here tonight. Test it out. If you wake up tomorrow and hate it, Marco drives you straight home. No judgment. No strings. I stared at him. You would actually just let me walk. I would let you go. Yes, but I would still do everything possible to guard you from afar. Because that is what you do. For people he stopped. His jaw locked tight. For people you care about. He almost used a different word. A much heavier word. I told him I needed a minute to think. Then take it. I am down in the study if you need me. He reached the doorway and stopped. Emma, thank you for giving this a chance. For trusting me enough to walk upstairs. That takes serious courage. Or pure stupidity, I muttered. Sometimes they are the exact same thing. He gave a faint smile. Sleep well, then he vanished. And just like that, I was totally alone. Standing in a room worth more than most houses. Holding a baby who deserved the absolute world. One choice was about to permanently alter our lives. I walked to the heavy glass window. I looked down at the armed guards. The massive iron gates holding the chaos back. Derek was out there, ripping off ruthless men. Threats breathing out in the dark. But here, inside this compound, wrapped in a mafia boss's protection like titanium armor, Sophia was absolutely untouchable, and somehow against all logic. So was I. Sleep never came that night. My brain would not shut off. Every time my eyes drifted shut, I saw Dante, that intense stare, the heavy possessiveness, a promise of absolute safety that felt suspiciously like a beautiful velvet cage. Sophia woke up twice to feed. Both times I sat in that perfect rocking chair, staring at a room built in under 48 hours. I kept wondering what kind of man wielded that level of power, and what toll he would eventually collect from me. Dawn broke. The decision was already made. Or rather, my bone-deep exhaustion had made it for me. I found Dante down in the study at 6 in the morning. He looked completely wrecked. 2. He stood by the glass. Phone pressed hard to his ear. Speaking rapid Italian, the words sounding like razor blades wrapped in silk. He spotted me and killed the call instantly. Emma. He crossed the rug in 3 long strides. Is everything okay? Is Sophia all right? She is fine, I said, just sleeping. I hugged my chest, suddenly aware I was wearing soft cotton pajamas straight from his closet. I need my apartment, I told him. I need our things, if we are doing this. I have practical matters to settle. Fierce satisfaction crossed his hard face. We are doing this for now, I said, trial basis. If I ever feel uncomfortable or unsafe, I am gone. No arguments, he agreed way too easily. Marco will drive you. Security will follow. I held up a hand. No, I have to do this alone. It is a bad neighborhood. If I bring bodyguards and a sleek Mercedes, my landlord will triple my rent or kick me out. I need to pack, pay up and leave quietly. His jaw locked. You are not going alone. I lived there 2 years, I argued. I can handle it. You lived there before Derek's debt collectors started hunting you down. His tone turned to pure ice. You are not leaving without protection. Non-negotiable. We stared each other down. Wills clashing hard. His need for control, slamming right against my need for independence. Fine, I finally relented. But plain clothes, no obvious security suits. Someone who can blend in. Done. He pulled out his phone and fired off a quick text. Luca will accompany you. He will look like a friend helping you move. Former military, speaks perfect English. Knows exactly how to be invisible. Thank you. Do not thank me for keeping you safe. That is the bare minimum you deserve. He stepped closer, and my traitorous body responded instantly to his proximity. When you return, we discuss Derek. What he knows, Sophie, where you intersect. How to keep his mess away from you. He does not know I am here, I said. Not yet, but he will. Men like Derek hate rejection. He will come looking eventually, just to stroke his own massive ego. Tell me the second he does, promise me. Emma, his intensity made my skin prickle. I promised. Good, his hand came up, tucking a stray hair behind my ear. It was a tender, utterly possessive gesture, totally at odds with the killer he actually was. Be careful, he whispered. Come back safe. It is just packing clothes, I told him. Not a military operation. Everything is when protecting something precious. His thumb grazed my cheek. You are precious, Emma Carter. You and Sophia both, accept that soon. Later, I saw Luca was exactly what Dante promised. Mid-30s, average build, faded hoodie. He looked exactly like any guy from my old neighborhood. Except for his eyes, a completely cold, soldierly stare, always scanning, cataloging threats, plotting exits. We took an unmarked sedan instead of the Mercedes. Luca drove smoothly, grilling me about the building, the neighbors, the blind spots. By the time we parked, he knew the layout way better than I did. I carry the boxes, he said on the stairs, but I stay visible. Anyone asks, I am your cousin, I glanced over. Do you do this often, babysit for Dante? His lips quirked. 8 years with Mr. Salvatore. And this is a first. I usually guard business associates. VIPs, people from his world. So I am an anomaly. Luca told me I was someone he actually cared about, making me far more important than a diplomat. He paused at my door, said Dante was different lately. Distracted, almost human. I had no idea what to do with that, so I just unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment felt painfully small, shabby in the harsh morning light. Water stains creeping across the ceiling. Carpet that was maybe beige a decade ago. Just a sad collection of thrifted furniture. This was my hard-won independence. Proof I could survive. Now it just looked like a cheap cage I had called freedom. I will start in the bedroom, I said, my throat tight. Packing went fast. I barely had anything worth taking: clothes, photos, some worn paperbacks. The furniture could stay. The dishes were just mismatched junk anyway. Only one thing mattered, a small keepsake box from my mother. She passed when I was 16. I was wrapping her jewelry box when a knock hit the door. Luca was there instantly, hand sliding to the gun at his waist. Expecting someone, I shook my head no. He motioned me back, then he cracked the door, totally blocking the frame. Can I help you? His tone was entirely pleasant, almost unremarkable. I am looking for Emma Carter. Derek's voice turned my blood to absolute ice. I need to speak with her. Luca glanced back and I shook my head frantically. Sorry, man. Nobody by that name here. Tenant moved out. Impossible. Derek pushed back. She was in the hospital 3 days ago. This is her place. Do not know what to tell you. Landlord said it was empty yesterday. Check the office. Derek let out a heavy sigh. Fine. Thanks anyway. Luca waited until the heavy footsteps faded down the hall before finally shutting the door. That him, the ex, yeah. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely stand. How did he know? He did not. Just hoping to catch you home. Luca fired off a rapid text. We leave now, if he is desperate enough to show up. He might be watching the building. But I am not done, does not matter. Mr. Salvatore is sending a crew to pack the rest for storage. Right now. I just need you out of here safely. He grabbed my mother's box and the suitcase, shoving me toward the exit. We made it to the car fine, but I felt eyes boring into my back. Paranoia or intuition, I had no idea. Luca drove off smoothly, but his shoulders were wound tight. Mr. Salvatore wants you back immediately. He is concerned, apparently. Concerned was mafia code for completely furious. The second we cleared the gates, Dante was there. He yanked my door open before the tires even stopped rolling. Are you hurt? His hands were everywhere. Checking my arms, making sure I was intact. I told him I was fine. Derek showed up. I blurted. But Luca handled it. Derek showed up. His tone dropped to a deadly quiet. At your apartment. He was looking for me. Luca said I moved out. He knows you left, that makes him desperate. Dante pulled me hard against his chest, his heart hammering violently against his expensive dress shirt. Exactly what I feared. He is circling now, looking for leverage. If he cannot use the baby, he will try another angle. What could he possibly want? Information, money, access. Dante gripped my shoulders tight. You worked at that diner for 18 months. You know his schedule, his habits, exactly where he hides. To the people he stole from. That information is a goldmine, which makes you a target. The reality hit me like freezing water. I was not just running from my ex anymore. I was caught in something that could actually get me killed. What do? I whispered, barely breathing. You stay right here, stay close to me. Let me handle this. He tucked me against his side, guiding me firmly up the steps. Come on, Sophia is hungry. And Maria is pacing holes in the floor. I heard the crying before we even crossed the threshold. Maria appeared holding my red-faced daughter, profound relief on her face. There you are. She knows her mama was gone. Very smart girl, I took Sophia, feeling her tiny weight settle instantly against my chest. The crying faded to quiet whimpers as she rooted for milk. Just the pure normalcy of feeding my baby anchored my racing heart. Dante stood there watching us, a heavy, indecipherable look in his eyes. Hunger, deep longing, sheer possession, all tangled together. I will have your boxes brought upstairs, he murmured, and I am doubling the security. Nobody gets near this estate without me knowing it. Not Derek, not anyone from his firm. You cannot just build a wall around us forever, I said. He did not blink. Watch me. He stepped into my space, rough hands cupping my face. I told you, you are mine to protect now. I will do absolutely whatever it takes. If that means walls, armed guards, and making sure Derek understands touching you is a fatal mistake, I will do it. That sounds like a threat, Dante. That is because it is. His thumb dragged across my lower lip. I make no empty threats, Emma, and I never lose what belongs to me. I pushed back. I am not yours. Not yet anyway. His smile was slow and predatory. But you will be. Soon you will stop fighting it. The safety. The protection. How your body completely responds to mine. You can lie to yourself but not to me. I see you, remember all of you. He was entirely right, and that terrified me way more than Derek. Stolen cash or mafia ties ever could. Every passing hour I spent here under his watch. I was slipping deeper into Dante Salvatore's deeply dangerous world. The worst part, I was not entirely sure I wanted to run anymore. I looked away, saying I needed to finish feeding Sophia. He stepped back, claiming he had syndicate business to deal with anyway. Then his mouth pressed hard against my forehead, a tender, fiercely possessive mark. "We are doing dinner tonight," he murmured. "Just us. I want to know every single thing about you. Emma Carter, every deferred dream, every buried hope, every wish you were too terrified to ever say out loud. Because I will make them all come true, whether you believe you deserve it or not." He walked out, leaving my chest tight with a dark, heavy anticipation. Hours later, Sophia was asleep in her pristine nursery, fresh from the shower. I stood at the bedroom window, wrapped tight in a silk robe left waiting in my closet. Down below, Dante paced the stone terrace in the moonlight, phone to his ear, quietly running a massive criminal empire. Even from 2 stories up, his sheer control radiated outward, that dangerous gravity making the whole world bend to his will. And the truth hit me like a physical blow. I was already bending, already falling, already his. The only question was whether I would chat or somehow survive this intact. A sudden knock made me jump. Dante stood in the doorway in a dark shirt, looking like absolute sin. He asked if I was ready for dinner. I was not ready for any of this, but I said yes. Ready or not, I was going under. And Dante Salvatore always caught what belonged to him. We ate out on the terrace, but the atmosphere had entirely shifted. The tiny table forced our knees together. Flickering candlelight cast sharp shadows, turning his face into something carved from cold marble. Beautiful, ruthless, eternal. He poured himself wine, then handed me a glass of sparkling water. "Tell me about your mother," he urged softly. I blinked, caught totally off guard, and asked why. "Because I saw how carefully you packed her things," he said. "I can see the grief. I want to know the woman who shaped you." I took a sip of water, just buying time. "Cancer took her when I was 16. Brutal, and way too fast. Headaches 1 week, gone 6 months later. My father was long gone. Mom called him her lucky mistake." I nervously traced the tablecloth. Foster care after that, aged out, saved for classes, met Derek. I actually thought I had built a stable life, until he burned it down. He wrecked everything, I admitted quietly. Convinced me to drop out and move in together. Promised he would provide. I was just so exhausted from fighting alone. I swallowed the lie. 3 years later, I get pregnant and he trades me in for a richer girl. Across the table, Dante gripped his glass until his knuckles bled white. I could make him vanish, Dante stated flatly. Permanently. I told him that was not a funny joke. He just stared right through me. "One word from you, Emma. Say the word, and Derek Morrison becomes a solved problem." Nobody would find him. Nobody would even bother looking. My breath snagged hard in my throat. He was deadly serious. Totally serious. "I have killed men for way less than what he put you through. But I am trying to stay civilized here, trying to be a man you could care for." He set the heavy crystal glass down hard. "Instead of digging a grave, I will just make him irrelevant. He will never touch you or Sophia again. I will build a life so incredibly rich you forget he even existed." I whispered that he was terrifying. "Good," he said. "Fear keeps you honest." He leaned closer. Shadows caught in his eyes. "But hear this clearly. The brutal things I do, my violence, will never be pointed at you. You and Sophia are sacred, untouchable, the only soft things in my entire world." The question just spilled out. "Why us? Why me? You could have anyone." "I do not want anyone." His hand shot out, gripping mine hard. "I want you." From that very first second in the hospital, shattered, yet still fiercely fighting. "Do you know what I see looking at you?" I shook my head, totally speechless. Strength wrapped right up in vulnerability. A woman who gets knocked down and absolutely refuses to stay there. You give everything to protect your own. You are entirely real in a city full of fakes. And the way you look at Sophia, his grip tightened on my fingers. It is exactly how my mother looked at us, like we were worth dying for. I have craved that since losing them. "Your sister," I said gently. "You mentioned she died." Raw pain flashed right across his face. "Isabella. She was 17, tangled up with some boy from a rival crew. When things finally spiraled, she was too terrified to come to me. Thought I would hurt him, so she faced it alone. When that boy turned violent, used her as leverage." Dante stopped speaking. His jaw locked hard. "I was too late, missing for 3 whole days. When we finally found her body, he choked. "Dante," I whispered, "I'm so sorry. I slaughtered them all." He breathed out. "Every single man involved." Slowly, painfully, I met his eyes and finally saw the mafia monster lurking right beneath the polished surface. I swore no one I cared about would ever suffer alone again. The realization hit me hard. That is what I am to you. A second chance to get it right. No, he stood up, rounding the table to pull me to my feet. "You are not a replacement." He told me I was entirely new. Something he didn't even know he needed until that hospital hallway, falling apart, yet stubbornly holding it all together. I made him feel something he buried with Isabella: hope. The idea he could be more than just blood and vengeance. His hands framed my face. His thumbs stroked my cheekbones. He admitted this was dangerously fast, that I really should run, but he was asking me to stay, to let him prove he could be exactly what Sophia and I needed, a chance to build something real. My voice dropped to a whisper, and if it doesn't work, he would still protect us. Ensure Sophia had absolutely everything. Still bury Derek in his mess. Because that is what you do for people you. Dante froze. Heavy hesitation caught right in his throat. "People you what?" I whispered. "People you are falling in love with." Quiet, devastating, entirely true. He was falling in love with me, Emma Carter, with my fierce pride. The way I guarded my daughter, my stubborn refusal to take a lifeline even while drowning. He was falling and he would not stop. The only question left: would I jump with him or run? I should have run, grabbed Sophia, and forced Marco to drive us far away. I really should have seen this for what it was: raw obsession. A dangerous man claiming territory. Instead, I pushed up on my toes and kissed him. Desperate, reckless, completely inevitable. His arms locked around me, taking immediate control. There was nothing gentle about it. This was a conquering, a predator finally catching the prey he had been stalking. His teeth snagged my lower lip. Heavy hands gripped my hips. I kissed him back just as fiercely, pouring days of terror, loneliness, and desperate hope right into that violent collision. We broke apart, gasping. He rested his forehead against mine, begging me to stay, to let him love me right. I admitted I was terrified. "Good," he breathed out. "So was he." A ragged laugh escaped his chest. He asked if I thought he planned this. A newborn, a messy ex, every reason to run, yet here we are. He swore he was never letting me go. I told him that sounded pretty possessive. "I am a possessive man," he murmured. "You will adapt." He kissed me softly, pleading with me to say yes, to say I would stay. I looked past him at the estate. Warm and safe, then at Dante. Lethal, offering a protection I never had. I stared at the future, realizing I just wasn't alone anymore. "Yes," I whispered. "We will stay." 6 weeks later, dawn spilled into the nursery. I watched Sophia sleep. She had grown so much. Bright, alert, full of stubborn determination. My little miracle, safe, fiercely loved, and totally wanted. Dante stepped up. His arm slid around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. "She is perfect," he murmured. I agreed she was. I leaned into his warmth. The old fears finally gone. Those 6 weeks changed everything. He had been surprisingly patient, letting me set the pace, eating together every night, talking for hours. He got up with Sophia when she cried, tackled diaper changes with the same ruthless focus he brought to syndicate sit-downs. And when sheer exhaustion finally broke me, he just held me close, never once made me feel weak for it. Slowly, quietly, I fell in love with this mafia boss. Not despite the danger, because of it. He took all that raw violence and forged a shield for us. Looked at Sophia like she shared his blood. Looked at me like I was worth burning cities for. I told him quietly that Derek's lawyer called yesterday. Dante's shoulders turned to stone. He asked what the guy wanted. To say Derek got arrested. Federal charges for embezzlement. Turns out his associate wasn't his only victim. Dante kept his voice deadpan, agreeing that was apparently true. I asked if he had a hand in it. He admitted nudging certain evidence toward the right federal agents at exactly the right hour. His arms locked tighter around my waist. The guy was a threat, so Dante eliminated him. Zero apologies. I probably should have been horrified. Should have given some speech about letting the justice system do its job. Instead, I turned around and wrapped my hands behind his neck. I just said, "Thank you. Thank you for locking away my ex. For making those brutal choices to keep us safe. For being the kind of man who stays when the blood hits the floor." He swore he would never walk away. His kiss still managed to rip the floor right out from under me. He told me I was his, me and Sophia both, and he always protects his own. I mumbled against his mouth, asking if he was feeling possessive again. "Always," he said, "get used to it." Pretty sure I already had. Maria stepped into the doorway with a warm smile. Breakfast was ready. She told Mr. Salvatore his lawyer had arrived with the requested files. I shot Dante a confused look. He dug a folded document out of his jacket, suddenly looking genuinely nervous. A nervous Dante Salvatore. It might have been hilarious, except my chest was absolutely pounding. Adoption papers. He kept his voice low. They were for Sophia, if I allowed it. He wanted to give her the Salvatore family name, to make her his daughter in every single way that actually mattered. Derek had already surrendered his parental rights in a plea deal. Dodging a longer prison sentence was clearly worth abandoning his own flesh and blood. Legally, the path was completely clear. He just needed my blessing. Hot tears pushed at the corners of my eyes. I asked if he really wanted to adopt her. He said he wanted to be her dad, wanted her raised as a Salvatore, carrying the heavy armor that mafia name provides. She would never have to doubt if she was loved. His thumb brushed away a tear, spilling down my face. He told me it was my choice. It would always be my choice. I watched Sophia breathing softly in her crib. Then I looked back at this ruthless man. He had torn through our lives like a wrecking ball, only to become our absolute anchor. I pictured our future, never perfect, but safe, so I said yes, I wanted that. The smile breaking across his jaw was blinding. It turned him from deadly into something devastating. He whispered that she was ours now, legally, permanently ours. He pulled me into a kiss that tasted like a blood oath, a vow to burn down the world before letting anything hurt us again. Then he whispered right against my mouth, "Marry me." My brain stalled. He pulled back, eyes completely wired. He knew it was fast, knew we were still untangling the chaos, but he was dead certain about us. So he asked again, let him make me a Salvatore, let him give us everything we deserved. I breathed out that he was totally insane. He agreed, it was perfect. Then he tugged a half-filled marriage license right out of his inside pocket. He had it drawn up, just in case. It only needed my signature. He begged me to say yes to make us a real family on paper. I really should have asked for a minute to breathe. Demanded we wait to ensure this wasn't just mafia obsession playing at romance. But looking at this deeply devoted, terrifying man, I realized waiting wouldn't change a damn thing. I was already his. Had been since that dark night on the terrace when he swore no one would ever touch us. So I told him to make it official. His kiss was pure triumph. A dangerous man staking his claim. Pulling back, his dark eyes burned. Mine, he breathed out. Completely mine. I agreed I was his as long as he was ours always. He swept me right off my feet, pulling a startled laugh straight out of my chest. The man muttered that we needed to sign those papers before my sanity actually kicked back in, leaving nothing to chance. I told him it was way too late for that. My mind was gone the second I sat down with a mob boss. He carried me downstairs, calling it my greatest decision. Maria followed close behind with Sophia. Turns out, he was absolutely right. Stepping blind into Dante Salvatore's brutal underworld was completely reckless, pure insanity, but the fire forged me into iron. Sometimes, real salvation comes draped in absolute darkness. That kind of true protection looks an awful lot like raw possession. The most terrifying gamble is just trusting a man lethal enough to catch you. So I let go. I fell. Dante caught me. Now we were building a syndicate empire from the burnt ashes of my broken past. This was no clean fairy tale. It was violent, gritty, and fiercely ours, worth every single drop of spilled blood. 3 months later, I stood in his sprawling estate gardens in a simple white dress. Sophia dozed quietly in Maria's arms. Dante and I traded our vows right there, surrounded by a tiny circle of made men. No cameras, no press, just ironclad promise sworn under a bleeding red sunset, binding us in ways a legal contract never could. When he finally kissed me, I tasted that terrifying, possessive kind of love. He mumbled, "Mrs. Salvatore," right against my mouth. I smiled against his lips and whispered back, "Mr. Salvatore." We walked up toward the mansion. His heavy arm anchored my waist. Sophia wedged safely between us, a real family. Twisted, complicated. A bond hammered out of sheer desperation and pure danger. But it belonged to us, completely. Terrifyingly ours. I wouldn't change a single damn thing. Every mafia boss story is not only about power, money, revenge, or fear. Beneath the violence and darkness, there is often a painful human lesson about choices, consequences, loyalty, family, and the price of ambition. This story reminds us that no matter how powerful a person becomes, no one can escape the truth forever. Hundreds of people, and make others tremble at the sound of his name. But if his heart is empty, his victory is never complete. The mafia boss in this story represents a man who built his life on control. He believed that fear was stronger than love, that silence was safer than honesty, and that power could protect him from pain. For years, he may have won every battle in the streets, in business, and among his enemies. But the most important battle was never outside him. It was inside his own heart. That is where he truly lost himself. One of the most meaningful lessons from this story is that power without morality becomes a prison. Many people dream of becoming rich, respected, or feared. They think success means having control over others. But real success is not measured by how many people obey you. It is measured by how many lives you protect, how much peace you create, and how much good remains after you are gone. The mafia boss had money, influence, and protection, but he did not have peace. His life shows us that a person can be surrounded by luxury and still feel completely alone. Another important lesson is that loyalty is valuable, but blind loyalty can destroy lives. In the world of crime, loyalty is often treated like the highest law. People are expected to follow orders without question. Never mean giving up your conscience. A loyal person does not simply protect someone's secrets. A loyal person also has the courage to stop someone from destroying themselves. This story teaches us that loyalty without honesty is dangerous. Real loyalty should be connected to truth, respect, and moral responsibility. The story also shows the heavy cost of revenge. Revenge often feels powerful in the beginning. It gives a person the illusion that pain can be answered with pain, but revenge rarely heals anything. Instead, it creates a chain of suffering that keeps growing. One act of revenge leads to another. One betrayal leads to another. In the end, everyone loses something. The mafia boss may have believed that revenge would restore his honor, but what it truly did was steal his humanity piece by piece. This is a powerful reminder that forgiveness is not weakness. Sometimes, forgiveness is the strongest decision a person can make because it breaks the cycle of hatred. Family is another central lesson in this kind of story. Many mafia bosses claim they do everything for family. They say they commit crimes to protect the people they love. But protection without honesty can become another form of harm. A family does not only need money or security. A family needs trust, emotional safety, and love that is not poisoned by fear. If a father, husband, brother, or son becomes powerful but loses the ability to show tenderness, then his family may live in a beautiful house, but still feel trapped inside it. This story reminds us that children and loved ones often pay the price for the choices of powerful men. The mafia boss may think his decisions only affect his enemies, but every secret, every violent act, and every betrayal leaves a shadow over the innocent people around him. That is why one of the strongest educational messages is this: before making a decision, we must ask ourselves who will suffer because of it. A selfish choice may bring temporary success, but it can create long-term pain for the people we love most. Another meaningful point is the danger of pride. Pride can make a person refuse to apologize, refuse to change, and refuse to admit they are wrong. The mafia boss may have spent years believing that saying sorry would make him look weak, but in reality, the ability to apologize is a sign of strength. It takes courage to face the damage we have caused. It takes maturity to admit that we hurt someone, and it takes true character to change before it is too late. The story also teaches that redemption is possible, but it always requires sacrifice. A person cannot simply say they have changed. They must prove it through action. Redemption means accepting responsibility, protecting the innocent, telling the truth, and sometimes losing everything that was built on lies. For a mafia boss, redemption may mean walking away from power, exposing corruption, saving someone he once endangered, or choosing love over control. The path to redemption is painful because it forces a person to confront the worst parts of themselves, but it is also the only path that can lead to peace. From a human perspective, this story is powerful because it shows that even the hardest heart can still feel pain. Behind the cold eyes of a mafia boss, there may be regret, loneliness, childhood wounds, or a deep fear of being betrayed. This does not excuse his actions, but it helps us understand that broken people often break others when they never learn how to heal. The educational value here is important. Pain should not become an excuse to hurt people. Instead, pain should become a reason to grow, to seek wisdom, and to choose a better path. For viewers, the lesson is not to admire the criminal lifestyle, but to understand its emptiness. The suits, cars, mansions, and power may look attractive from the outside, but behind them there is often fear, guilt, and loss. A life built on violence can never bring true happiness. A life built on lies can never bring true freedom. And a life built on fear can never create real love. In the end, the story of a mafia boss is really a warning. It warns us that every choice has a consequence. It warns us that money cannot buy peace. It warns us that fear cannot replace respect. It warns us that revenge cannot heal a wounded heart. Most importantly, it reminds us that the greatest power a person can have is not the power to control others, but the power to control themselves. The deepest lesson is simple but meaningful. Choose character over pride, love over control, truth over silence, and forgiveness over revenge. No matter how dark a person's past may be, change is possible when they are willing to face the truth. But the longer someone waits, the higher the price becomes. A mafia boss may win the streets, defeat his enemies, and build an empire, but if he loses his soul, he has lost everything. True strength is not found in violence. True strength is found in responsibility, compassion, humility, and the courage to become better before it is too late.